How to apply for disability benefits with depression. If you can no longer work due to depression, you may be able to get disability benefits from the federal government through Supplemental Security Income or Social Security Disability Insurance. SSI benefits are need-based and are granted depending on your income and assets. Your eligibility for SSDI, on the other hand, depends on how long you've worked and the amount of contributions you've made to the Social Security Trust Fund. Part 1 Meeting Income and Work History Requirements. 1. Assess your income and work history. To qualify for SSI, your income and assets must be below a certain threshold. To qualify for SSDI, on the other hand, you have to have earned a certain number of work credits before you became disabled. Income for SSI purposes includes any money being paid to you such as wages, rental income, investment income. Other benefits you're receiving such as workers' compensation are also included in your income. 2. Compare your household's income to the federal benefit rate. To qualify for SSI disability benefits, your income must fall below the FBR, which in 2015 was $733 a month for individuals or $1,100 for couples. All income of anyone living with you is considered, not just yours. 3. Appraise and total your assets. SSI allows a single person to have $2,000 in resources, while a couple can have up to $3,000 in resources. Resources include property such as land, vehicles, or stocks and bonds that can easily be converted to cash. You're allowed to exclude the house you live in and the land it sits on, as well as one vehicle. Everything else should be listed and appraised if necessary so the claims representative has all the information she needs to assess your qualifications. 4. Make sure you've earned enough work credits to be eligible for disability benefits. To be eligible for SSDI, you have to pass both a recent work test and a duration of work test. These tests prove you've worked long enough before filing to have contributed a specific amount of money to the Social Security system. You can earn a maximum of 4 work credits each year, or 1 per quarter. The amount of money changes each year, but in 2015 you earn 1 work credit by earning at least $1,220 in a quarter. The older you are, the more work credits you need to be eligible. For example, if you're 31 years old or more, you won't be eligible unless you've worked at least 5 of the last 10 years before you became disabled. However, if you are between the ages of 24 and 31, you are eligible for benefits if you worked at least half the time between the onset of your disability and when you turned 21. In addition to the recent work test, you must also meet the duration of work test, which requires you to earn a certain number of credits for a certain number of years of work. For example, if you're between 31 and 42 years of age, you need to have earned at least 20 work credits over the course of 5 years of work. If you haven't earned enough work credits to qualify for SSDI, you may still qualify for SSI if your income and assets fall below the benefit limits. 5. Provide all documentation required to prove any statements made in the application. You must meet the financial need and work history eligibility requirements before your application can move forward in the process. Your claims representative won't send your application on for a disability determination unless these requirements are met. Part 2 Applying for disability benefits. 1. Fill out the application. The SSA allows you to apply for benefits in person at your local SSA office, over the phone, or online. The SSA requires all SSI applicants to meet with a claims representative, so if you're also filing for SSI it would be more efficient for you to apply over the phone or in person than to apply online. You can apply over the phone by calling 1-800-772-1213. You don't have to call ahead and make an appointment before you go to apply in person, but doing so could decrease your wait time. 2. Gather the necessary documents. The SSA requires you to submit certain documents to prove statements you made in your application. You will be required to show a birth certificate, Social Security card, or other proof of identity and U.S. citizenship. You should also bring any medical records or doctor's reports you already have in your possession. If you don't have all your medical records, you can still apply for benefits. The SSA will help you get the documents you need to complete your application. If you're applying for SSI and need proof of income and assets, bring financial documents such as bank account statements and pay stubs, as well as tax documents such as tax returns and W-2s or 1099s. 3. Prepare for your disability interview. Before the SSA grants you SSI benefits, you must meet with a claims representative who will ask you questions about your medical treatment, work, and personal finances. If you're also applying for SSDI, the same claims representative will review both applications at the same time. If you have problems with memory or concentration, write down information about your work history and medical treatment so you'll be able to answer any questions the claims representative has. You should also write down dates and locations of important life events, such as marriages or the births of any children. Make a list of all your doctors and their addresses and phone numbers, as well as the dates of all your appointments with them and what treatment you received on each occasion. 4. Attend your disability interview. Meet with your claims representative when your interview is scheduled and bring along any documents or other information that could support your application or anything you plan to say to the claims representative. The claims representative will ask questions about your previous work history, what duties you performed at work, what you were paid, and how your disability has affected your ability to perform those duties at that level. She needs to determine if you also are unable to do any other types of work for which you may have applicable education or experience. You will also be asked basic questions about yourself such as your name and address, gender, and age. You'll go through a basic biographical history, including a summary of your marital history, education, and work background. 5. Wait for a decision from the SSA. Every application for disability benefits is different, so there are no guarantees as to when you'll hear back on your application. The initial application process could take anywhere from a month to 2 years. Part 3. Qualifying for disability benefits. 1. Document your history of depression. Even if you meet the income or work requirements, you must have been disabled for at least 1 year before you are eligible for disability benefits for depression. Be wary of notes in your medical records where your doctor says your condition has improved or that you are feeling better. These are points where you may want to ask your doctor for more explanation, so it's understood that your condition is ongoing despite the fact that you had a few good days. Review the treatment recommendations provided by the medical professionals who've worked with you and make sure you've been following their advice, or that you had a legitimate reason for not following it. For example, if your psychiatrist tells you to attend weekly therapy sessions but you are unable to comply with that advice because therapy is expensive and not covered by your insurance, SSA probably would consider that a legitimate reason. 2. Get medical opinions on your degree of disability. You won't get disability benefits from depression unless you are seeing a medical professional such as a psychologist or a psychiatrist who has diagnosed you with and is treating you for clinical depression. You must show more than a diagnosis, however. Your doctor must testify regarding the severity of your depression and the ways in which it prevents you from working. The opinion will be stronger if she can provide medical explanations for each event. For example, if you miss work several times in 1 week because of your depression, go see your doctor and get a report from her on your mental status at that time. 3. Meet the requirements for benefits based on an impairment listing. The SSA Handbook lists disability criteria for affective disorders including depression. These listings are for disabilities that are so severe they automatically warrant benefits without further review. To meet the criteria for automatic benefits, you have to show medical evidence that proves your symptoms of depression caused at least 2 of the following: a marked limitation in your ability to perform everyday tasks of living such as getting dressed or bathing yourself, a marked limitation in your ability to relate to others, and a marked limitation in your ability to focus and maintain a regular work pace. A claims examiner associated with SSA determines whether you meet the SSA impairment listing. If you do not, that claims examiner will forward your application to a medical consultant for further review. If you've only seen a social worker or a therapist, understand that the claims examiner who reviews your application will give their opinion less weight than a doctor's opinion. For this reason, you should consider getting another opinion from a psychologist or a psychiatrist before applying for disability. Your doctor's medical opinion should include a psychiatric evaluation with a formal diagnosis, a detailed list of prescribed medications and dosage amounts, and an evaluation of your ability to perform work. If true, your doctor should also make a statement that drug or alcohol dependency were not a factor in your disease. If depression coincides with drug or alcohol dependency, the SSA often uses that as a reason to deny disability benefits. 4. Meet the requirements for benefits based on a medical vocational allowance. If you don't qualify under the SSA disability listing for depression, you can still qualify if your residual functional capacity is significantly diminished as an effect of your disability. At this stage of the process, your disability and treatment history is analyzed by a doctor, psychiatrist, or psychologist working as a consultant for SSA. Most disability applicants are approved through a medical vocational allowance rather than through the disability listings. Your residual functional capacity, RFC, is an analysis of how your depression limits your ability to perform the tasks normally required in a work environment. You would be considered disabled if all of your limitations meant there was no work available that you could reliably do. The medical consultant looks for evidence that your disability causes such a significant restriction of your capacity to function that you are essentially prohibited from working as a result. Once the medical consultant has evaluated your RFC, your file will be returned to a claims examiner, who will evaluate your work history to determine if there are any jobs out there that you could reasonably do, or if your disability truly keeps you from working. The claims examiner will analyze your RFC in light of your age, work experience, and education to make a final determination of whether you are disabled enough to qualify for benefits. Claims examiners make final determinations of disability using a complex system of grid rules that are defined by the age of the applicant. These rules also are subject to a number of exemptions, such as the worn-out worker rule, that grants disability for applicants who've done many years of hard labor and have little to no education. Part 4. Appealing a denial of disability benefits. 1. Understand the overall process. Most applications for disability benefits are denied after the initial application, and this is especially likely if depression is your only disability. Hiring or consulting with an attorney who specializes in disability will help you understand what sorts of information you need and what you can do to stand a better chance of approval on appeal. Nearly half of all appeals for denial of disability benefits result in benefits being granted on further review, but it takes time. 2. File a request for reconsideration. You must file your request for reconsideration within 60 days of receiving the letter denying your application. It is in your best interest to file your appeal as soon as possible. Reconsideration involves a second review of your application by an SSA employee who hasn't seen it before. Typically you don't need to be present, although you can meet with someone if you want, or if you are having trouble understanding the reasons for your denial. You can file your initial appeal online. If you choose to file a paper form instead, you must also include the disability report form and the disclosure form. Expect to wait 3 to 4 months after you file your request to hear back from SSA about your reconsideration. 3. File for a hearing before an administrative law judge. If your claim is denied after being reconsidered, you can request a hearing before an ALJ, an independent government officer outside the SSA. The ALJ's office will let you know the date and time of your hearing, which is typically held within 75 miles of your home. This hearing is more formal, and the ALJ will ask you questions about the information in your application and the documents you've submitted to support your application, including your medical records. You may bring witnesses, including doctors who've treated you and anyone else who has an understanding of your depression and how it affects your life. After the hearing, the ALJ will make a decision based on all the information presented to her before and during the hearing. The SSA will mail you a letter summarizing the decision along with a copy of the ALJ's full decision for your records. The total decision time varies from state to state, but ranges from 7 months to nearly 2 years from the date you request a hearing. 4. File for review of the ALJ's decision by the Appeals Council. If the ALJ doesn't rule in your favor, you can have his decision reviewed by the Appeals Council. If you're unsure how to request this review and you don't have an attorney, the SSA will help explain the process and ask for a review. The Appeals Council will review your request and make a preliminary decision whether the ALJ's decision was correct. If the Council finds no fault with the ALJ's decision, it will deny the request for review. You will receive a letter from SSA explaining this decision. If the Appeals Council finds something in your case merits further review, it will either review your case and make a decision itself, or it will return your case to the ALJ who decided it with instructions to correct the problems. Since the Appeals Council is a national body located in Washington, D.C., your presence is not required at their review. If the appeals council decides to review your claim, it can take up to a year for them to render their decision. 5. File a lawsuit in federal district court. If the appeals council affirms the ALJ's decision, you can file a federal lawsuit. You have 60 days from the date the appeals council made its decision to file a civil complaint with your local district court. The SSA can't help you with your federal court case. At this point, if you haven't already done so, you should find an attorney who specializes in Social Security disability to help you with your case. Federal rules of procedure are exceedingly complex and difficult to navigate without experience. When your complaint is filed, the court issues a summons that you must serve on the SSA along with a copy of your complaint. When the SSA has notice of your case, one of the agency's attorneys will file an answer explaining why the agency was correct to deny you benefits. Both you and the SSA will then file briefs with the court that outline your respective positions. Sometimes the court also will schedule an in-person argument. Generally, a federal district court takes about 8 months to decide a disability appeal from the date you file suit. Tips. Disability attorneys don't collect a fee unless you win. If you're awarded benefits, the attorney's fee must be approved by the SSA or by the judge who decided your case. So in the case of a denial of benefits, money shouldn't be a reason not to hire an attorney.